Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by
the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce and its member A2H, engineers, architects, and planners, creating an enhanced quality of life for our clients and community. To learn more about A2H's services and markets, visit a2h.com.
the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
The continuing transformation of downtown Southfront area tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes, publisher of the Memphis Daily News. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined tonight by Terrence Patterson, CEO and President of the Downtown Memphis Commission. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Along with Madeline Faber, reporter with the Memphis Daily News. Thanks for being here again. And Brock Holloman, a developer with Hamilton and Holloman, who's doing a number of projects downtown that we'll talk about. I'll start with you, Terrence. You've been in this job, what, 6 months, give or take, a little more than that. There are a lot of people who can remember, I've been in Memphis 20 years, when downtown as a whole was a ghost town. Mm-hmm. Then certain areas started, everyone knows the story of the Peabody, and then the South Main area really took off. Southfront, which we'll talk about initially, and we'll kind of move around downtown and various projects, various things are going on. Southfront was a bit of a ghost town. Why did that get redeveloped, and talk about what all is going on down there?
Yeah, 10 years ago, the only residential option was really the Paperworks building, I think, and then everything else was abandoned or blighted. And what you saw was just a true revitalization of the neighborhood. It's got a lot of character, a lot of history, and I think folks really realized that this could be a really cool place to live. And so what you've seen now is over 500 residential units coming online. You've got the $5 million project with the Decanali Distillery coming, which will feature a public tap room. So you're really starting to see just a lot of energy and excitement, but also residential growth as well.
Well, talk some more about residential, is what you've, I think, primarily focused on. Talk about why you developed downtown in that area. I think there are probably people listening who would say, that must be difficult, that must take a lot of time, it can't be nearly as cost effective as just putting up houses in the suburbs, but you've been very focused down there. Why?
It's a happening place. It's really a lot of growth down there, really exciting. I actually lived in the suburbs and moved down there. It's a good place to be. I mean, you can do anything you want, whenever you want. A lot of nice new buildings going up, and it's a really good place to build. So. And
right now, it's mostly thought of as a place with lots of apartments, condos in some places. What about, is there a time when that area there's still some vacant areas where more single-family homes might go up? Is that a possibility, or?
Yeah, I would think so. We've got some single-family homes that we're building right now. We've only got a few left. It's been a really hot product and kind of hard to keep on the market. But there's a shortage, definitely. So I would say pretty soon there would be some more coming online. So
yeah. Madeline.
Brock, the history of the South End is that it was a really heavy industrial area, and a lot of warehouses for the cotton industry, warehouses for South Main's department stores. What are some of the challenges in trying to convert an area that was built to be suitable to industrial into residential?
I guess a big challenge would be trying to put people in a residential building across from a building that's still doing industrial things, like some areas over on the south side. But as time goes on, it becomes a little more easy because people they're okay with it. Memphis is an industrial town, so it's not that difficult.
And is it part of the character? Because there's been the sugar plant down there. Some of the earliest developments in that area were up against the sugar plant. I remember driving through with my dad, old guy. He's going, why would someone live there next to all that? Well, now thousands of people live right next to this sugar plant.
Right, yeah.
That's part of, that's not a downside, that's character?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Now the sugar services building is in the minority. And they actually are being very good neighbors. And we've had conversations with them about, what does it mean for them to grow and expand or even think about their business in the context of what previously was industrial but now residential? And It has its challenges in terms of delivery trucks coming in and out of the facility, but with more people coming online, I think the sort of old line industry is realizing that the neighborhood is growing and evolving. But an important point to note is that character is really important, and that's why folks want to live in the South End, because there are these old historic buildings that can be repurposed but still keep their same flavor and flair to them.
When you talk about how many people live down there now, and I think I have my numbers right, they're around, in that South Main, South Front area, around 3,000, 3,500 apartments, units, homes, or whatever. That number might double in the next few years. I mean, that's kind of what's on tap. It took years ago, I mean, decades ago, it took a lot of incentives to get people to develop down there. I mean, you had to really be a risk taker. Henry Turley, probably one of the more famous ones, who went down there when people thought he was crazy. Now, are the incentives still as necessary? I mean, is it the kind of hot market where it's self-fulfilling? It's purely kind of the opportunity for people like Brock is there, and so they don't look for the incentives, and you don't have to dole out the incentives you used to do?
Yeah, so not all of these projects are using incentives. So certainly, and we are excited when projects don't require incentives. And our role is really to be there to leverage the private funding to make these projects happen. So we are seeing that some projects are requiring public support, but for the most part, the market is really starting to work. I mean, this has been a long time in the making. As I said, 10 years ago, there was nothing there. Now you're seeing over 3,000 residents. We hope to see at least 2,000 more units coming online. So, I think it's evolving, but it's certainly a work in progress.
Yeah, Madeline.
Terrence, with the clip of that growth, with the area growing 2 times, maybe even 3-fold in the next few years, is it too much residential growth? When would you start to harbor concerns?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because one of the things we are always focused on is density. We want to make sure that our downtown has people and everyone is interacting with each other in a fun, rich, vibrant environment. So we're always monitoring how we're growing and making sure we're growing in a smart, thoughtful way. One of the great examples of that is there's been a cross intersection right where the new Laughlin Yards is. And previously it was just a 2-way stop. And now we've actually worked with the city to make it a 4-way stop. So it will be more safe for pedestrians. So we are always thinking about ways to ensure the safety and, again, making sure we're growing in a thoughtful way. But I think at present, we're growing on schedule or at the right pace or clip. We don't feel like we're growing too fast.
Can it ever go too fast? Can there ever be too much development?
Yeah, definitely, right?
It can. Wait,
Yeah.
you're a developer. You're supposed to say that's not possible.
Well, I mean, let's be real here. I mean, that's why Front looked like it did a few years ago. So, I mean, it could be. There's a lot of abandonment, and when you build too much, you have empty places where nobody goes, and it could turn out that way again. But we don't want it to. We don't want the way you're talking, it won't. So
yeah, that's right. Well, that's why I think the mix of residential and commercial is really important.
Right.
We don't want to sort of oversaturate with too much residential, and so we are being thoughtful about the types of projects that we're working with and incenting.
What are some of the commercial projects that are still needed in the South End area?
Yes. Well, so the elephant that's always in the room is a grocery, and making sure that we're continuing to think about where and what type of grocery will go there. We know we've got a movie theater coming online with the Central Station project. We've got wonderful restaurants and eateries all across South Main and even coming on the South Front. We've got world famous Gus's Fried Chicken. We have the distillery coming online with D. Canale. So the residential is starting to be complemented with more retail and commercial, but it's going to take some time. I think the retail strategy has always been, we need the people first. It's not a build it, then there will come type of model. And so we're starting to see more retailers interested in the South End area as a result of the residential development.
What about the other element would be offices? I mean, there's some small offices there. There's some design firms on South Main. I think there's an architecture firm and so on. Is that part of the plan? Is that part of the mix? Or do you feel like that, in the other part of your job, the more of the center of downtown where the office buildings are, you want the offices up there, or do you see more of that sort of stuff happening in the South area?
Yeah, we know that vibrant urban environments have, a lot of mixed use, and there are a lot of things sort of intertwined and together. So we do want to see our creative hub extend into the South End as well as in the core of downtown. We actually have over 500 creative and entrepreneurs right in the core heart
Right.
of downtown, but we know that they also live, work, and play all around downtown as well.
Talk about that initiative. So some of the ad agencies, Archer Malmo being the biggest, but other ones as well, and some of the tech firms saying, we want a little attention. I mean, not in a bad way, but we actually, we're here. Downtown is thriving. It's a great place for us. And for those companies to recruit people who tend to be, they want to live and work and play in downtowns. They want to be in that kind of area. Talk about what that group, I forget the name that they've called, the creative.
My HQ or the Creative Hub.
Yeah, okay. The Creative Hub at My HQ. Talk about that initiative. What is being done? What can be done to get more creatives, more of those types of companies downtown?
Yeah, it's really a three-pronged approach. First we're focused on just marketing and getting the word out that we actually already have a good concentration of creatives and entrepreneurs in downtown. We've got Lokion, Rocket Fuel, Red Deluxe, Archer Malmo, Sullivan Branding. I could go on and on. Young and Rubicum just decided to bring their
one of the
Memphis
largest,
branch.
if not the largest, ad agencies in the world is opening a huge office downtown.
Right in the core of downtown, right? So we already have a concentration there, and it's only building. But that's the first part, is sort of the marketing and getting the word out that this is a good place to have your office campus.
Right.
The second piece is also thinking about activating programming and events to make sure that these professionals have these opportunities for creative collisions, making sure that people know that they can hang out and interact
Right.
outside of the workspace. And then the third is actually creating spaces for them to go. We know that the mid-size market is there. We know that large market is there, but we also want to make sure we're providing incentives and opportunities for smaller up-and-coming businesses that are coming out of StartCo, coming out of Emerge, so that they can go and find a home right in the heart of downtown.
Okay. Madeline.
Terrence, the Downtown Memphis Commission has had a very concentrated effort in building up South Main over the past 15 years. We're really seeing it hit its stride now, and one could argue now spill over onto South Front. How will you take what you've learned and what the Commission has learned in building up South Front in your current efforts in the Pinch and the Edge?
Yeah, that's a really great point. It's really taken time for South Main to get to where it is, and I think people forget that this has been 5, 6, 7 years in the making. And one of the things that we're going to focus on is mixed uses. I don't think we started in South Main thinking we were going to go all residential. We had to really be thoughtful and make sure that we were mixing the uses and also listening to what the community wanted in the neighborhood. And so I think we'll continue to focus on mixed use, but then we'll also keep listening to the residents. And the other thing that's important is we'll also listen to the greater Memphis community, because one of the things that's important for me is making sure that downtown is for everyone. And so we've got to be thoughtful about when we're developing and thinking about building up areas like the Pinch and the Edge, that we are developing for the interest of the Memphis community and also visitors and residents alike.
When you talk about mixed use, but I know this isn't technically mixed use, but it makes me think about getting families downtown. We talked a lot about the young creatives, people working, and kind of millennials and so on. But for you, developing, I mean, do you develop for families? I mean, do you have, is that part? Do you need playgrounds? Do you need the kind of traditional, not just the hip bar, but the playground for the kid to go, play in to really be successful?
Not really. I mean, we would like to on our bigger developments,
right.
But some of them it's kind of impossible. Our new one we've got coming up on Carolina and Tennessee. We're going to put a pool with a nice outdoor kitchen and all this, for families to have fun and
right.
a nice place to live, which is kind of hard to find down there.
Right.
But anyway, yeah. But we've got another development where we don't have anything like that, no park or anything. So.
Yeah. Talk about you on the property. So what used to be the Horizon is now the big building that got caught up in the recession. It was going to be condos right facing the water. Is now the Artisan, and it's beginning to be. I don't know if people started moving in there or not. Yeah, they have. Okay.
It's got really good growth coming.
Yeah. Okay. And so you've got the land. You and your partner have the land across from that. And so if people are driving in off I-55 and about to go into Riverside, they see the Artisan on the left. You own that property on the right. It's screaming for something to happen. What's going to happen?
Well, I don't want to go into too much detail, to be honest.
See, I thought I could trick you into giving away the whole thing if I just let it in that way.
Right, but I mean, just a quick thing. We're gonna do like 3 or 4 phases. It's kind of undetermined right now.
Yeah.
But like we were saying, we don't want to just spill 1,000 units and then have it all drop and have a bunch of vacancies.
Right.
So we'll do it in phases. right now probably thinking like a 6 to 8 story building for the first phase, and roughly around 120 units or something like this. So.
Okay. Well, the other thing when you talk about that area is the Harahan Bridge, or Big River Crossing as they call it, but I'm going to always call it the Harahan Bridge, which is I think is opening sooner than later. And there's an announcement recently. They've got private funding for lighting on the Harahan Bridge, and so it's the Harahan Bridge, and it's a pedestrian bike pathway that'll link all the trails and bike paths that are going into Memphis to the 100+ miles of trails over in Arkansas. How important is that to downtown?
It's essential to downtown. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to highlight arguably the city's greatest asset, and that's the Mississippi River. And when you will walk out or drive or bike through the Harahan or over the Harahan, and then you look back and see the skyline, it is a breathtaking image. And it's also
Have you been out there?
I have. And it
Really?
is.
Did you go through a barricade, or were you actually invited out there?
I was invited out.
Okay,
there.
all right.
And I took a selfie.
Yeah. Okay.
But it would just be an awesome experience, and it'll also highlight a different side of Memphis, right? Memphis has a growing number of bike lanes. It is becoming a more destination for folks that like to bike and walk through cities, and it gives you a flavor and feel of Memphis that is really unique, and
Right.
one of the only places in the country, in the world, that you'll be able to walk across a river and then look
Of
back
that
into the sky.
magnitude.
Of that
I think people, we
That's
sort of take it for granted on some level, because the river's there, and the city is kind of built off the river, so people almost, I don't want to say forget, but forget it's there. But before we go back to Madeline, in terms of these bike lanes and the Harahan Bridge and all that, some people look at bike lanes, and I know mayor, I know the city councils, I know they get complaints. All it does is slow down traffic. It's just a big hassle. For you selling to the kind of urban apartments and condos, houses that you're doing, are those big selling points? Or
Yeah,
is it,
definitely. It's a big amenity. A lot of people downtown, they like to be active, and it's a great thing for people to do.
So you highlight all that stuff when
Yeah,
you're trying to
definitely.
sell a house, when you're trying to do all that is that's
100%.
part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Madeline.
Brock, so in the greater South End area, that kind of came on everyone's radar with obviously Henry Totally planting his flag, but then later kind of condo development and a condo boom that tapered off during the recession. And you're back building condos in the South End area, and you're looking at this development across from the Artesian that's growing at a really good rate. What indicates to you that the market has returned for condo development?
Well, there's just kind of a shortage of it, and supply and demand, right? So, and plus, not knocking anybody else's product, but we built a really good looking product with really nice finishes on the interior, and I think it's going to sell itself at really good numbers. So, I mean, pretty confident in it, honestly.
Are you seeing condos in other areas downtown? Is it coming back? People get real nervous about condos because a couple of projects went bust, and so there's this kind of PTSD when people say condos. Maybe that's just me. But.
Yeah, I mean, the rental market is really strong. We're not seeing significant growth on the condo side. We do know that right now our occupancy rates are at about 95% across downtown on the the rental side. But I think it is coming back, though. I would agree with you.
Yeah, Madeline, back to you.
And Brock, I know that this is something that you've said in earlier conversations, that you see your company as a uniquely downtown developer, and that you see a lot of suburban developers trying to bring on a downtown type product. Could you talk some more about that distinction and what makes you unique to downtown's needs?
Okay, well, I mean, like you said, it's kind of hard for someone that's used to suburbia to come downtown because they're used to the houses with the gables and all that. It's kind of hard to bring that look downtown. And we, even though we've done a lot of suburban stuff, our insides feel like you're metro. Like we got really modern finishes and stuff like this. And we want to bring that to the outside and the exteriors too, which is hard to do in a suburban neighborhood. You really won't. I don't even know if it'll survive. So coming downtown, we can kind of unleash everything we want to do as far as exterior and interior, and have a really good urban looking product.
So much so you're doing one project that is, I don't think we talked about this yet, is shipping containers cut and used as part of the materials of the apartments or condos.
Right, and it's kind of hard to envision, if you haven't seen it before.
Right.
A lot of people turn their nose up to it. But if you,
They don't want to live in a shipping container?
Yeah, I know, but if you look at, actually in Dubai, they've got a whole community called Box Park, and the whole community is shipping containers, commercial and everything. It looks fabulous. So
Yeah.
if you don't know what it is, just Google it real quick. So.
Yeah. Let's move to some other areas outside. There's a lot going on downtown. Your area covers a whole lot of areas. The I-55 roundabout, which actually is towards the south end, just been talked about forever. It's back in the hands of the state, as I understand it, TDOT. They had a proposal to do a big roundabout to kind of smooth out that traffic, which everyone wants to have happen, where I-55 meets the bridge and meets Riverside. What do you know? What's the next step? What's going to happen to the big complaint in the last proposal from the Tennessee Department of Transportation was they wanted to shut down the old bridge for 9 months to a year, and that did not go over well. What's going to happen?
Yeah, so all I know is that we're continuing to have conversations. We're at the table making sure that stakeholders downtown's voices are heard. It's our hope that that roundabout can happen because we need a very clear-cut, safe gateway into downtown Memphis, and that's something that we really need to continue to work hard at. I haven't gotten a sense on timing or when it's going to happen. My understanding is that these types of projects take a long time, but we continue to push and stay at the table.
Staying in that area for a second, the abandoned hotel, the very blighted hotel that is at the corner, I can't remember what it used to be called, but anyone who's driven that has seen, if you're going from, say, I-55 over the bridge, the mayor had an announcement that an agreement to tear it down. That French Fort neighborhood around there is really a great middle-class neighborhood that people don't know about. There's a guy, Lauren Cruz, who owns a lot of property and has big plans for almost a kind of a harbor town Part 2 down in the French Fort area. I hope he wouldn't be offended by that. It shouldn't be. What's going on with French Fort, and were you involved with getting that hotel torn down?
Yeah, so we weren't actively involved. We've been speaking with the mayor. We've also been talking with Lawrence on his plans and vision for the community. I think the one thing that's important for us is whatever the plan is for the French Fort or any other community downtown, that we have a lot of active community engagement, and it's really a partnership. So we want to see that come down. We want to see something great come out of that neighborhood because it really is one of the literally hidden gems of downtown.
The metal museum's down there, the old Marine hospital that I think Lauren Cruz also. One more, and I'll go back to Madeline, is South City. South City being the last of the big 1950s era, I think, public housing projects. The city got a whole lot of federal money. It's agreed to put in a significant amount of local funding. How will that, and that's the area, if you're at the FedEx Forum, it's basically to the south and east of FedEx Forum, if you've been there. What will that do to the whole downtown experience to transform that public housing? And is there enough housing downtown for different incomes? We talk a lot about the high end, the millennials, the college educated, the designers and programmers, but what about the middle class, the working class? Does this bump them out by getting rid of that public housing?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, and it's my hope that it does not, and it actually will bring folks closer to downtown. I think the new South City development will have about 700 or so units. We're actually trying our best to make sure we can connect the South End and South Main and the G.E. Patterson corridor with South City. So we actually are working on a new incentive program to make sure that we can provide some retail and commercial incentives that will be right along the edge where South City and South Main abut to make sure that we can make it a really seamless neighborhood. Because the one thing that we don't want to have happen is a wall go up between South City and the rest of downtown. We want our downtown to remain open to everyone, and I'll stand by that and beat my drum as loud as I can, but we want to make sure that this project is really integrated with the rest of downtown.
Just a couple minutes left. Madeline.
Terrence, so ServiceMaster, one of the largest employers in Memphis, has announced they're looking for a new headquarters. Has downtown thrown its hat into the ring, and what are some of those spaces that could accommodate ServiceMaster's needs?
Yeah, it would be wonderful if we could get an organization like ServiceMaster downtown. So we know they're looking, our arms are open, and we very much would work with them if that's the direction they want to go in.
And, other office, your predecessor, Paul Morris, who was on the show a number of times, there was another wave through the recession and other things that were going on of office spaces, people moving out east. The 240 Ridgeway corridor is booming. Do you see what he had said last time? I think he was on the show, probably give or take a year ago. He said, what we're seeing is that number is leveled out. It was not a good thing. We lost a lot of office, but it's leveled out. Is that still what you're seeing, or do you actually see growth in terms of the amount of occupancy and office spaces being used?
Yeah, I think it's leveling out. out, but our office market is also gaining a lot of momentum. And the reality is we're really targeting businesses and professionals that want a walkable urban office campus, right? So, it's not for everyone, but we are always actively and very aggressively attracting businesses to come downtown. But I'd say it's leveling out, or it's still level, but we're starting to gain momentum.
A big issue with just a minute left, I can't give it enough time, but hotels. There are about 10 hotel projects of various sizes on deck right now. I think most people think that's great, with a big caveat for some people like Kevin Kane of the CVB has been on the show and been in various outlets saying, look, we're bringing in too many small hotels. We need some big convention level hotels that have the kind of meeting space and all that to attract big conventions. Are you worried about that as well?
Yeah, we're absolutely worried. I mean, we're in lockstep with Kevin and the CVB on where they stand. We know we need a large 1,000 room full service hotel so that we can attract more convention business. But we also have to note that the hotel development market is taking notice of our occupancy rates. And so there are new hotels coming online. Some of them are chain, but some of them are also boutique, such as the Hotel Napoleon that's happening on 3rd.
Okay. That is all the time we have. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you for joining us. Join us again next week. Good night.
Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the Bartlett Area Chamber of Commerce and its member A2H, engineers, architects, and planners, creating an enhanced quality of life for our clients and community. To learn more about A2H's services and markets, visit a2h.com.